just didn't believe I was good enough. And so that was the bigger problem. It was this reality that nothing that ever happened was good enough, and I was talking to myself like my dad sometimes talked to me, or my coaches talked to me, which is like, yeah, you may have dropped 20 points that game, but you had 4 turnovers, and so pay attention to those turnovers and don't do that again. Don't celebrate.
Welcome to the Hey Brother podcast, where Catholic men share about real struggles. I'm Nick Clooney, your host, a Catholic psych mentor and the founder of Crafted for More, a mentorship practice dedicated to helping men live more radically free lives. Each week, I sit down with a man to hear his story about how brotherhood has shaped him, the struggles he's facing, and where he wants to grow. In addition to our weekly interviews, I share conversations with my brother Mitch. Subscribe and follow so we can walk this journey together. We want your help to build a stronger, authentic Catholic brotherhood. Welcome back to the Hey Brother podcast. Today I'm joined by guest Noah Gilchrist. I've known Noah for, over 10 years at this point.
11 years.
Yeah, we met because we both applied to be net missionaries, and then I ended up staying at your house during the interview weekend, which is wild time, and life's changed a lot since then. Like, I got a lot less hair in my head, and now I'm
getting a lot less hair in my head too. So.
Yeah, yeah, you were rocking dreads back then.
I was.
But it's good to have you on the Hey Brother podcast, and I know you fairly well, but people who don't know you, I know, to introduce you as Noah Gilchrist, Damascus missionary. A lot of people know you as that title, but tell me about yourself. Tell me what people need to know about Noah to kind of get them caught up to speed on who you are, what you're passionate about right now.
Yeah, totally. So I guess where to start. So many places we could start. I mean, I obviously, so Nick, you already shared a little bit about this, but I was a net missionary for a year. It was a transformative moment of my life. I had a real reawakening, reversion, awakening, conversion, whatever you want to call it, in high school. I grew up, Catholic, K through 12 Catholic schools, Catholic family. I am one of 6. My mom's one of 12. Big Catholic family, a lot of rich tradition in my family of just Catholicism and being on fire for the faith. I didn't catch that at all until later. In grade school, I knew God as somebody who could help me on a test or help me win a basketball game. And I was horrible at school. And I went like 2 for 22 in basketball between my 6th and 7th grade year. So you could see how my flaw, there'd be a few flaws when it comes to how I viewed God. And so I didn't have a great relationship with him. If I would have been given the opportunity to not go to mass, I would have never gone. But my family were faithful mass goers and still are to this day, and prayed before meals, prayed before we went to bed. But yeah, just didn't really want anything to do with it. It wasn't what was capturing my attention at that age. And so getting in high school, things started shifting for me, just to be fully real with you guys, and we can get more into this later. But my 8th grade year, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so that was a moment in my life where I was like, wow, this is not expected as a 14-year-old. And so trying to cope and understand that, I had 3 younger siblings, one that was 2 years younger than me, and then the other 2 were about 10 to 11 years younger than me. So they're little babies at that point, and we're just, as a family, really wrestling with what this meant for us. And I just took it in a way where I decided to separate myself and kind of like, fight or flight. I decided to flee, and I decided to try to avoid my family through my academics, my sports teams, and then my friendships and relationships. And one by one, those things started to disappear. I went to an all-boys Catholic prep school here in Columbus, and academics were really hard, and I wasn't very good at it. And so I wasn't doing well in school. After my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, my coach cut me from the basketball team. He was frustrated with a few things that I had done in the off season, and so he cut me from the team. And then, and so that thing was gone, and that was something that I was using to separate myself from my family. And the other thing that was kind of going on were my friendships and relationships. And so, sophomore year ends, going into the summer of my sophomore and junior year, my father actually did pass away, and it was a very difficult time just for my family. And I had a choice to really step up and be a leader in my family, or uh, truthfully just kind of do what I was doing. And sadly, I chose the latter. As a 16-year-old boy, I decided to keep partying and keep um, kind of just delving in and giving myself to these friendships, and then started to sadly just give myself to relationships with women a good amount in a way that I
Yeah.
kind of promised I never would. And so it was a difficult season, and it led to me having to go on this trip to get service hours for um, my high school, because I had to get X amount of service hours in order to move on to the next grade. And so I went to this trip called the March for Life. And when I was there, I thought I would, walk a little bit and then get back in a bus and come home and miss a couple of days of school and be happy. And I got there and found out it was a retreat, and I was pretty, pardon my language, but I was pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
I People started singing and putting their hands up, and I started doing what every high school boy does, which is uh, just laugh at them and make fun of them.
Yeah.
And
Was
in
this so? This was like praise and worship that the folks were doing, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that wasn't I didn't know that language at that point in my life, but that's what it
Yeah.
was.
You
And
saw people putting their hands up, and you're like, I'm out. Like this is.
yeah, I'm like, this is making me very uncomfortable, and it's very weird, and I need to leave. And so got through that, but then after that, there's somebody who got up there and started sharing the faith in a way I'd never heard before. And the only way I can explain it is that they really did believe that what they believed was real, and I'd never seen
Yeah.
that before. And I had great family members, but you tend to shut off your family members well,
Sure.
because they're your family and you're in high school and you're rebel. And so I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
didn't see that, but I could tell these people lived in a way, like this person lived in a way that I wanted to live. And so um I was kind of affected by that. My three best friends came on that trip with me and had a similar experience, and we all came home and said, you know what, let's try this thing out. And so we went to youth group. We found out that there wasn't just one person who actually lived this and believed this. There was like 5 and 6 and 7 and
Yeah.
8, and that number kept growing. And I was like, oh, okay, this might be real. Um,
Yeah.
and so I decided to start going to youth group, and
Wow.
I remember that first night in particular, well, second night in particular, there was a message on hope, and that's something I deeply needed with all the suffering and tragedy in my life, and it transformed me. And
Yeah.
so from that moment on, I just knew. I remember being in the shower, even this sounds weird, but being in the shower and feeling like the hot water hit me, and just it not even comparing to what I was feeling in my chest, this heat in my chest. And it was this reality of knowing in that moment that I was destined to share what I had received with the world. And I knew that this would be the rest of my life, that I would be committed to Christ and live for him.
Wow.
And so high school got a lot of fun. We started to um, go from the people that were partying and doing all these other, things, to not doing those things and inviting people to youth group. And it created a real shift in the school that I went to. And we went from 6 kids at that youth group that I was attending to 120 in about 6 months. And so
Wow.
there was
Dang.
this boom, there was this real effect, and there was this real understanding that our lives were changing, and people were like, wow, how did that happen? And so they came and they came and saw how it happened, and they were having conversion themselves. And so really powerful stuff that led, that leader in my life, that youth minister, to say, hey, you should come check out my summer camp. And so I came and helped out at a summer camp for a week. Loved it. My senior year, I came in, I knew I was going to be on mission. So that's when we met, Nick. That's when
Yeah.
we, discerned to do net ministries. And that was just a blessed time. But before I jumped onto net, I did that same summer camp for 3 weeks, the summer before I came to net, and had a profound impact on my life, really got me in a place ready to receive what net was ready to train me in and have for me. And so that was very powerful. Did a year with net, learned how to pray, and
Yeah.
absolutely transformative in my life.
Absolutely.
I hear a lot of like horror stories of people who have done that, and I just didn't have
Yeah.
that experience. I had the best experience of my life. If
Yeah.
somebody offered that to me again, I'd be like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So awesome
That's awesome.
year, and just came back and saw what God was doing at this little summer camp that became a property that was purchased, and that property was purchased and became something called Damascus. And
Yeah, that's where
so
you're at right now, right?
exactly. And so I saw what God was doing at that point in, 2016, the summer of 2016, and I jumped on as a full-time missionary, and I've been here since. So heading into
Dang.
my 10th year is crazy and scary and a little, I look at that and I'm like, wow, I'm old, and everyone here is very young, but it's been a blessing, it's been a gift, and so that catches you up. That's a long story long.
Yeah.
Where I'm at and what I'm up to, and we can get more
Yeah,
into
no,
that. But
it's
catches you
good.
up.
I appreciate you sharing, like, and catching my, yeah, the folks who are tuning in, listening to this, the men, about like your life in short and brief. But it's like I really appreciate you sharing vulnerably, like, about the pain points, and like it's like such an understandable reaction. Like, we can look back in hindsight's 2020 when we look back in life, but like why it makes sense that it's easy just to avoid, to check out. Like,
Mhm.
you experienced a lot of life really fast, and a lot of pain, and then a quick turnaround to like knowing the Lord and all of that. And um, yeah, I just like, I think that scope of life that you shared in like a span of 4 years, I think guys are on a span of 40 years in a very real way. Um, and that's for you and your own faith journey. And obviously, there's a lot of human formation and growth that you're learning, like,
Whew.
as a man now. But like, as far as the faith go, I've always known you as a pretty mature, like, believer of Christ, and somebody who's on mission and oriented towards that. And it's like something that I've been attracted to, because I'm like, dude, like, Noah's on fire, he's on mission, like, he knows what's up. And I think a lot of guys are kind of journeying towards that
Mm,
themselves. And it's interesting, like, how through trials, through pain, through suffering, we get led to the Lord,
mhm.
um, like, led to the cross, and understand Him and His sacrifice just a little bit more. Was there a time frame, like, where you're like, because like you were pretty sold on mission early, like that message of hope caught you and like inflamed your heart? Was there a time where you're like, I don't want this, or like, I don't
Mm.
like this missionary life isn't for me, or was it always like, let's keep going, like, one step at a time?
Yeah, no, I think I'm a very passionate person, and so I think that I very much, from the moment I had that experience, I was really obsessed with, and even it is grew when I was on net. I was really obsessed with the idea of what people would term maybe revival. But I just really believed for some reason. I think I'm just crazy optimistic and very passionate. I really believed that this gospel that I was living for could reach and transform every person in the world.
Yeah.
And so I lived as much as I could. Directed at seeing the world changed. I think the reason I say lived and not live, I had a real, which again, this could be a 10 other podcasts probably worth of content, but I had a real, I guess we'll just use the word awakening again about 3 years ago, where I realized that a lot of that was coming from a place of like competitiveness and a desire of like, I'm going to win everyone over to my team and I'm going to beat the
Mm,
bad guy. And
yeah.
I came to recognize that that was a lot out of a belief of me believing I wasn't enough, and out of a belief of just wanting to prove myself to the world. And so while I was on that mission, God used it and it was amazing. But it took on much more depth when I had that awakening experience and realizing, oh, God loves me when I don't make my bed. God loves me when I don't convert a soul today. God loves me when I may miss prayer. God loves me when
Yeah.
I didn't, reach out to that person I should have reached out to. And I didn't know God loved me there. And so I had this real breakthrough moment when I realized, oh, my whole life, even the only reason God gave me a mission in the first place was so that He could spend more time with me and get closer to me. And so when I had this orientation of He loves me and my whole life is a path towards, you know, um, closeness and intimacy with Him, it made me look at mission way different, because mission is a beautiful thing, but it's another way that He uses to just simply want to be with me, and that's his desire, is wanting to be with me. And so it's taken on a new life. And so the question, yeah, did I have a moment of doubt with mission, or like, should I be doing this? No, but did I have a transition into what I believe is a healthier desire for mission? Yes.
Sure. Yeah. That's awesome. Like to, because there's such a maturity in our faith life that
Mhm.
it's not just this one time I accept you, Lord, and we're good from there, or even this one time like I guess I'll take this faith thing seriously, but it's this ongoing, um, daily acceptance, moment by moment acceptance of like, okay, Lord, all right, I'll accept you here and in this part of my life. Can you talk about like that? So you said like it felt like a competitive like part of you that was like, uh, I'm gonna do this, and it happens to align with what the Lord wants, and that's good because God always uses, if we're turning our lives to Him, He's gonna use our lives for good, regardless how broken we are. But if there's this part that's like, I want to do this like, and for competitive reasons, like, can you take me into that? Because that's a very masculine thing. I'm sure there's guys who are
Mhm.
listening here that I know my brother he's just 14 months younger than me, and he comes on and we talk. Um, it's part of the reason it's the Hey Brother podcast. We break down the episodes. I've got a competitive like nature with him where it's just like I gotta one up him, or like we were on the softball team, or dads now, old dads, and like both of us like you want to race to the foul line to warm up and back. It's like, yeah, let's do it. And then we're like both grabbing our hamstrings as we're walking back. It's like not stretched out at all, but that competitive nature I think is very alive in men's hearts. And maybe you can speak into that a little bit of what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, and competitive competition is amazing and very, very good.
Yep.
I have a podcast as well, and we talk a lot. We just finished an episode about that, actually. We have like probably 12 episodes, and like four of them are on competition and winning. So I'm a
Nice.
big believer, and I think it's stupid when I hear guys say like, I'm just trying to be like Jesus. Like I don't care about competing, or like I want to take the lower place. It's like, great, but even if you want to take the lower place, that is a form of competition as well, because what you're saying is, I'm going to get to the lowest place. I'm going to take the lowest place, which means I have to beat somebody out to be lower. So in every moment, we as men are built competitive, and that's amazing. We're built as warriors. And I think for me, I don't even, I think maybe competitiveness isn't the right word for it. I think it was just a inferiority complex. I think the problem
Mm,
wasn't that I was competing, because I should be aggressive and I should be desiring to win. I should be desiring for every soul to encounter Christ and live life with Him, because it's the
yep.
best life. And so there's an enemy who doesn't want me to do that, and there's a world that doesn't want me to do that, and I should fight against that, right? Um, and so that's good. I think it was more me competing against myself because I didn't believe I was good enough. I just didn't
Mm,
believe I was good enough. And so that was the bigger problem. Was this reality that nothing that ever happened was good enough, and I was talking to myself like my dad sometimes talked to me, or my coaches talk to me, which is like, yeah, you may have dropped 20 points that game, but you had four turnovers, and so pay attention to those turnovers and don't do that again. Don't celebrate the fact that you have 20 points. And part of that's good too, right? Like always getting better.
mm,
But it was this reality that at the core of my being, I truly had a belief that I was never good enough. And so I was
mm,
acting out of that belief of I'm not good enough. And that led to a place where I was more stressed about mission than blessed by the mission.
yep.
And it led me to a place where I would lash out at people, or I would make people believe that they were never doing what the best that they could do. And I was constantly coming with this voice of telling everyone else they weren't good enough because I wasn't good enough. And I think I was living a life where I was trying to make the world never find out what I already believed about myself. And that was taking up a lot of the mindset and time that I was putting into mission, which made God used it, but it made it in a way a flawed version of mission, in a really a way of mission that burned me out very quickly and made
Mm,
me resentful, bitter, and unhealthy, to be honest.
yeah. Can you say more about that? Because it's just like there's such a subtle nuance here. Maybe not subtle. Like it's what you're talking about is subtle, like this feeling of I'm not good enough, because a lot of Christian men out there can get there intellectually, like, oh yeah, I'm a beloved son of God, I have worth, I have dignity, and just kind of move on. And I'm guessing, I'm at least hearing like that's probably not too far off from like your journey, right? You had this message of hope, received like Christ as your savior, and it's easy to get to like, well, yeah, I'm his, like, but what's that like? How does part of you like start to fight against that? Like, is there? Can you take me into that? You know, what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, totally. No, it is such a subtle nuance, and it's something that you will never finish. It's something that until you're in
Mm,
heaven, right? It's so I think for me, it was just this, and it is still this reality of what asking myself why I'm doing what I'm doing, and when I
yeah,
feel off, what was going on when I was feeling off or did something that was
yeah,
off. And so I constantly have to ask myself this, like, um, I mean, as simple as this podcast, like the way I would have prepared 3 years ago is way different than the way I prepare now. In the way that I'm able to operate, I heard this the other day that um, you don't you don't get anxious about performance if you're focused more on serving than performing. And
yeah,
because we all have perform, like people are like, no, don't perform. And it's like, no, we all need to perform on the stages of our lives that we have, right? But it's the heart behind it. It's, am I coming to serve and to love, or am I coming to prove myself because I don't believe I'm good enough? When I allow
yeah,
myself to truly believe that, because the truth is I'm not good enough. That is true. When I can accept that and say, okay, Christ would love me even in this place, then
yeah,
then I can live from a place of, wow, I probably am using 25 filler words every 5 seconds in this podcast, and I don't really care because I'm not.
yeah,
If you were to come back to me and say, Noah, like that podcast sucked, I'd be like, probably, because I'm not good enough, and that's beautiful, and that's a
it's
beautiful
beautiful.
place, because if I was good enough, I wouldn't need God. And
Yeah,
it's just this understanding now from this place of like, I'm just way less stressed in the
yeah,
things that I'm doing in life, because I'm like, look, all I can do is just try to be as faithful as possible to what God's given me. And whatever He puts in front of me, my desire and my, not even my desire, but my responsibility is to steward what's in front of me the way that I believe He would. And if I do
mm,
that, then I'm not thinking about like, how can I walk out being the best and getting the most views and being praised and applauded and have, all these things. Like everything becomes, the way I would say it is that everything shifts from being a necessity to a tool I can use, right?
yeah,
I think I approached most things like, I need to be on this podcast and I need to do the best I possibly can do, because if I do the best I can do, then it'll get traction. And then if it gets traction, then I'll be able to go to the next level and whatever that means. And I'll be able to, and it's this
sure,
game of like, and then I'll be good enough. And if I
right,
can just sit here and say, I'm not good enough, and that's why I need Christ, then I can be so relieved and take a deep breath, and everything's slower and everything's easier and better. And it's me living from this place of Christ's love for me, even in my imperfection, that I can know, then go and extend mercy to others. Because that
yeah,
that was one of the biggest areas that I was struggling in, is I just didn't. I was all justice. I didn't extend mercy to anyone. And I was kind of starting to be known as a jerk, because I was just so hard on people, because that's how I treated myself. And
yeah,
now I'm able to extend that mercy to others, much more, because I understand how merciful He is to me. And
yeah,
that is what I'm trying to live out every day. And I fail probably most days, but that's the mindset shift, the renewal of the mind that I've gone through,
yeah.
to really look at life through the lens of love, and the love that He has for me. And so I can try to turn that on others, and love them well.
I love that. It's such a beautiful like shift, because it's like that's what unleashes us to what you're saying, mercy, but also conversion. And like what you're sharing is so relatable to guys out there, where it's like I don't know what's wrong. Like I just know people think I'm being a jerk now, and like I need to I need to fix that. Like it's so easy for men to start to, and like what you said, it's easy to articulate now as you look back that like I'm just displacing all of this like anger towards myself or perfectionism towards myself onto other people. And something that I I don't tire of, like never tire repeating when I'm working with guys in mentorship, that I'm like, remember, like the Lord said, love yourself or love your neighbor as yourself, right? So if you love yourself like shit, you're going to love your neighbor like shit. Like
Mhm.
it's only what's true, or your family, or your wife, or like other people, right? You're not gonna love well, and so like this idea of like how can we actually really truly look inward and like
Mhm.
begin to accept the different broken parts of ourselves all starts with what you were saying with the self-awareness bit of asking yourself like, what am I doing, why am I doing it,
Mhm.
is it to impress people? And I think that's the reason I asked you to elaborate on it. And again, thank you so much for sharing from a place of vulnerability and like taking it deeper, because it's like it's so hard to actually see that. Like
Mhm.
you can get stuck in the day to day, you can recognize something's wrong, something's off, but you don't like know what it is. You can't quite put a finger on it. At least most guys like struggle with that. But then to start to ask the questions, you can start to see, oh, like I'm actually doing this from a place of trying to like earn my worth, earn my spot in like
Mhm.
other people's eyes, and that's a really stressful place to be.
Totally.
So thank you for sharing that, and yeah, I just think there's a lot of men out there who will reap benefits from hearing your example and just the way that you've been working through that, and then your humility to be like, yeah, I'm still a work in progress. Like I'm still
Mhm.
learning day at a time, and that's like the truth of it is like as men we can really get into the self-reliant,
Mhm.
sufficient kind of mindset. And it's like when we get to that place of like, no, I'm not good enough. That's when we can actually start to improve as husbands, as fathers, as men. Like, because we're actually living in accordance to a deeper reality than
Mhm.
just this pseudo, like, I think I got it,
Mhm.
or I'll one day earn it. Um, to move the conversation a little bit into brotherhood, can you talk to me about brotherhood and how you've experienced
Mhm.
that and what that's looked like in your life?
Yeah, that is, man. That is, there's so that's where to start there. I mean, so I've been blessed. I mean, if I break it down throughout my life, I mean, brotherhood, started. It's beautiful to actually see. I think I had beautiful brotherhood because I had brothers. I have brothers,
Yeah.
and that started from the earliest of age. Just it's so fun
Yeah.
um,
How
to
old are your brothers compared to you?
yeah, so I have an older brother who's 5.5 years older than me, and then a younger
Okay.
brother who is 13 years younger than me. So,
Okay.
um, it is so it just life is so full, right? Like, it was just so fun growing up, being able to just play sports constantly, be able to play games, and I grew up in a very competitive family. Like, my dad played college sports, my mom, was all-state throughout high school, and because of an injury, didn't play college sports, but, just a very competitive family, and my dad loved to compete all the time, so we just grew up, like, video games, football, basketball, every sport possible. We were just constantly playing and constantly competing, board games, whatever it was. It was just constant
Yeah.
competition, and it was awesome. Um, and I started playing sports by the time I was 3, and so I started playing with other guys and started building rapport and not rapport at the age of 4, but like relationship. And,
Yeah.
uh, just started building that brotherhood early on, and so I've always been blessed to have a lot of men in my life who are friends with me, and I'm friends with them, um, and we've competed together. That's been like such a core of it, which is funny that we brought that up earlier. But that's kind of what it was. In high school, I developed really good friends, really good guy friends, and that we had a brotherhood. It was oftentimes um, it was it became a negative competitive environment in the sense of like we were constantly trying to one up each other, and I look back and
Yeah.
I see it was very unique in the sense that my 3 friends were like 2 of the 3 that I spent the most time with were very like what people would call alpha, right? So they always had to be,
Mm.
and I have a lot of those tendencies as well. And so we were constantly bucking, each other's thing. And we were constantly like trying to one up each other, whether it was even who's going to say the funniest joke or who's going to. And so we didn't really like insult each other, which was nice because that's something that happens to a lot of men. And It's something that's not helpful, but we definitely were constantly trying to beat each other in a way that wasn't helpful. And it constantly made us, I think throughout my experience in high school, I really questioned whether or not the men that I was spending the most amount of time with, if they truly wanted to be around me or saw me as an advantage some way in their life, and a utility in a way. And I think the same thing has kind of happened. It caused me from that moment on to, even when I entered into Christian communities, Catholic communities, I always questioned whether the men around me were men that were using me or men that were truly wanting to love me for who I am. And to this day, it's amazing. Like, when I started to bring, I'm in a men's group. I have a close men's group, and then I have a lot of other guy friends that are awesome. And I think to this day, I still ask myself that question. And when I'm vulnerable about it with other men, they're asking the same question as well. They're like, "Do
Yep.
you really like?" Women will talk about it. Women will like voice these things, and they do have other insecurities, but men don't really talk about it. And
Yeah.
I think there's been a beauty in like unpacking that recently with some of the brothers in my life. Um, and I will say, I know I've shared a lot getting up to this point, but one of the most beautiful moments recently was there was a brother that I just disagreed with substantially that
Mm.
we had, and we worked together, and he had done something that I really disagreed with. And I was really, and he's kind of started his own thing, and I've started my own thing, but we're still here serving with a mission. And I was just frustrated with what I felt like was a lot of leeway that he was getting, and some ability for him to say no to things that I didn't think he should have been able to say no to. Um, that affected my area of work. And so he and I were in disagreement, and I like set out on a campaign of terror against him, right? Like, I'm just being honest, like I was horrible to him. I was trying to really prove my point, all because, again, like, I think what was triggered in me when a certain situation went down that caused a lot of this was that I felt in a way that I wasn't being heard, and I
Yeah.
wasn't good enough to get the leeway that this person was getting. And so I went on a terror of destruction and was like trying to prove my point to the utmost degree for like no joke, like 6 7 months.
Yeah.
And and I was partially right. Like, I would say I was probably mostly right. And and to be honest, like, I think I was right about a lot of it. But um needless to say, it kind of boiled down. We ended up having a trip together. That was a pretty long trip, a lot of days, long flights, and we just spent a ton of time together. And this guy has been in my life for 10 years, and we've been very close. But over the last 7 months, it was just a war in a lot of ways. Really, just me against him, not even him against me. And it was just this simple moment where we were on our flight back, and we needed to get some food, and he just bought my meal. And it was this moment where the Lord very quickly showed me, like, wow, I have been terrible to this guy. Yet he has been nothing but holding a line of honor for me, affirming
Mm.
me, and then bought my meal. And it was as simple as that. And just continually pursued me in friendship. And it was this clicking moment of like, wow, that's what friendship is. Like, that's what true friendship, true brotherhood is. And it was a real moment where I realized, like, wow, I maybe a lot of times I feel like people might be using me for utility and using me, or even being friends with me and brothers with me until they disagree with me, because that's what I do to other people. And
Mm.
so I think really that's where brotherhood has been at with me, that I'm trying to learn right now is how do who Lord, like asking the Lord, like, who am I called to be committed to in life for brother, right? As brothers. And then, am I loving them unconditionally, or am I loving them fully conditionally? And I think I've been loving the men in my life conditionally. I think I've been loving most people in my life conditionally. And it's been a real blessing for the Lord to just kind of give these gifts and allow me to kind of sit here and say, okay, like, now I need to actually step into these relationships and start loving these dudes unconditionally and sacrificing everything to be by their side. Because One, because it was modeled to me, and one, because it's what Jesus did. And so,
Yeah.
um, so I'm learning that, and that's with a general question like brotherhood. What's brotherhood like? I'm going to give you a billion things, and you can break down what you want. But that's um,
that's
that's where I'm at with brotherhood right now.
that's good. I love the journey through it too, because it's like it mirrors like any man's journey on what they can experience with brotherhood, and something I continually encourage men who are listening to this. It's like, if you don't have brotherhood, start somewhere. Like, if there's a guy you know, go grab a beer with him, go grab a coffee with
Mhm.
him. One conversation can change your life in a dramatic way. If there's like a guy out there that you are like, he seems like he's a good Catholic or a good Christian man, or like just a man of virtue, and like go talk to him and like start conversation, because that's always like the first starting place. And so
Mhm.
again, the men who are listening to this, if they're consistent listeners, they've heard me say that probably ad nauseum at this point. But it's like, start, like that's the the one thing that I always want to encourage men at some point with. And if you don't have that, like, I've got a Discord community, and join the Discord community. I'd be happy to be brothers with you online. Until you can find a brother in real life, I will be a brother to you in the virtual space. But the gradients of brotherhood is what you're talking about, like, where a lot of times it starts off, at least from our early experiences, with these common interests. Like, we did sports together, so we were brothers together, or friends together, and like that's where a lot of my friendships developed too. Like, went to the same school, K through 12, small farm school, right? Same people in my class, and like, we just, the relationships were there naturally. But then there comes a point where brotherhood becomes real, it becomes deeper, when like there's this choice, like, especially when like somebody's pissing you off and
Mhm.
like, and you're mad and you're angry, but you choose to be brothers through that. That's getting you to like a deeper, it's almost like a purifying process. It's like almost like
Definitely.
God designed it to have like a breaking point where you're like, I'm just pissed off at this guy. And if you could persist through that and like repair the relationship to the point where like you're back into good terms with each other,
Mhm.
that brotherhood deepens. And so I love you sharing your experience, because I'm throwing out like generalizations here of like what brotherhood could look like, but you lived it. Like, that was your experience through high school, and then most recently with this guy, this brother that you're like, I'm in disagreement with, but I'm still willing to make it work out. I think is an awesome thing to to witness and to hear you talk about. Um, with brotherhood, with men who are listening to this right now, what would be like one thing you would want to encourage guys with, and how they could be better men, or how could they live out the faith better, or anything that you're willing to think men need in today's world?
No, I think you truly hit it on the head. So I think you the reality, I can't stress enough how important it is to get somebody in your life you can have real conversations with. My friends and I started a podcast almost a year ago, um, really just focused on that. Like, we have conversations and we talk about things that have happened in society right now and how we can redeem and restore them, and we break those things down. And my whole desire for being on the podcast, because like, I'm one to be like, I don't think I have anything that needs to be heard. I'm just like, I don't, but it's funny because I'm like doing a lot of those things, but I don't really think I'm that novel or like that impressive. But the whole reason I got on this podcast is I just wanted to have a space where where other men could hear men have conversation, and
Yep.
it would allow them to understand, maybe, and maybe model how to open up, really, like how to just open
Mm-hmm.
up and say vulnerable things, say serious things. The majority of male relationship is jokes and sports, and I probably 90% of my life is jokes and sports, but I still think that like we need to be able to have a space where we can have a serious conversation, because there's serious things going on in our lives. And if we continue to shove down the serious things and have no one to talk to except sometimes our wives who are not men, then we're going to be in a place where we just feel lonely and misunderstood. And there's enough of lonely and misunderstood men in this world. And so, really, the thing that I would encourage men to do is, um, a lot of times men have other men in their life. They're just afraid to have conversations with them. And I think that is what I would encourage, man, is try having a serious conversation. And if you don't know what that looks like, I mean, yeah, check out our podcast. It's something that check out this podcast where this is happening. But here, go and try to find places where men are having those real conversations, and then be bold enough to go and start it and do it. And you'll find that 99% of the time, if you stick with it, you'll find that most of the men want the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what they want. That's what they want. I haven't. This just came to mind, but this memory in high school where after we had our, reversion to the faith, my friends and I, we started to not do the things that we were doing at parties or even go to parties, but we decided to start getting into smoking cigars at cigar lounges, and that's what we would do on our
Nice.
Friday to like, get our party bug out or whatever, which was just us hanging out. But it was amazing because sometimes my friends would like post a picture of us being there. And one time I remember there was this guy, and he was the most popular kid in our class. And he was going to all the parties, and everyone loved him. He was a great looking guy, athletic, tall, just the man, tall, dark, handsome guy, like the guy that everyone wanted to be, and very well from a very wealthy family, and had great grades. And I remember he like texted one of my friends who posted the picture just privately and said like, wow, I like, it seems like what you guys, it's something to the degree of, it seems like what you guys are doing is something that I would want. He was like, I don't know the last time I had a real conversation with another guy,
Oh
and
wow.
I so badly want that. And he was just saying like, wow, it's so cool you guys do this. This is something I so deeply want. And so the guys who look like they have it all together, those are the guys. Those guys, even those guys need these conversations. And so, yeah, that's what I would stress is have those conversations and start somewhere and keep going.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that encouragement, and I think, yeah, for me too, it's just like a good reminder to like what how am I living intentionally, like striving actually to invite guys into that. Sometimes it's like I look at my calendar and I got it completely booked out with either podcast stuff or mentorship stuff or mission and ministry stuff, and then it's like, oh man, I have not prioritized like good brotherhood in a long while. And when I do that, I'm like I'm burnt out, and I'm like I gotta actually go and prioritize brotherhood. So good reminder to myself, good encouragement to the men who are listening. Thank you so much, Noah, for being here on the Hey Brother podcast. If you could tell me about the podcast, because I really want guys to go check that out who are listening, and then also Damascus, just a quick plug for that too, because we've got a number of guys who might be interested in that men's retreat who are
Mhm.
listening, who might be in the local Ohio area. We got to reach, so we're not just Ohio, but there's I know the audience is a little broad, but there are a lot of guys in the area who'd be interested in that men's retreat, and maybe even some dads who would have kids that would be interested in the youth camps. So
Totally. Yeah. So our podcast, very quickly, it's just called Modern Man, and it's on YouTube and Spotify and all places where you can find podcasts. It's video and audio. And again, we're just breaking down. We're having conversations about what a winning mindset looks like, what it means to restore masculinity, what it means to live as a as a man in this culture. And so it's a lot of fun. It's myself and two of my good friends who are in my men's group as well. And so it's the three of us, and we just break down topics that we're all thinking about, or modern, not modern, but current issues, right? Current things that are
yeah,
in on television, current things that are happening in the NBA final, things like that. So it's an absolute blast. And it's a great podcast just to check out if you're interested. Damascus, we run a lot of things. Our whole desire is to awaken, empower, and equip generations of Catholics to live the adventure of their faith. And so we do that through high adventure activities and then our programs. And so yeah, we have a men's retreat. Nick, you've been on one or two. You've been on more than one.
but I've been to two, and I was at a
Okay.
third one just to hang out for a little bit. But yeah, they're awesome
Yeah.
retreats.
Yeah, they're a blast. So whiskey, cigars, paintball, all the fun activities, and then really deep spiritual renewal when it comes
Yeah,
to just remembering. I think half of our problem is just that we forget what Christ has done for us, and we forget the life He has for us because we get bogged down by just the world and all the busyness that comes with it. And so that retreat is really focused to just be, once a year for people to come remember that Jesus is Lord and rededicate their lives to Him and experience Him, and then just have a lot of fun
Yeah.
and do activities and drink bourbon and smoke cigars. So that's that men's retreat. And then yeah, our summer camps, they're happening right now. It's craziness. My brother and sister are actually at camp right now.
Awesome.
And those are a blast. They're just activities and high adventure faith leading to high adventure, or high adventure activities leading to high adventure faith is what we say. So it's an absolute blast. We love it. Yeah, and seriously, any of the men on here who have kids between the ages of 11 and 18, get them involved. Or if you're an individual that's post 18, in between 18 and 28, check into being a missionary here and serving these kids and serving these adults even, and bringing them constantly into a relationship with Christ is kind of what we do. So if you're interested, check it out.
Yeah, awesome. I'll drop a link down in the show notes to both Damascus and really encourage you guys to check out the Modern Man, the podcast. Yeah, I think there's a lot of fruit there for guys listening. Noah, thanks so much for listening. For men out there who are catching the end of this, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Hey Brother podcast. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Share it with brothers who need it. And if you're interested, go ahead to craftitformore.com to learn about what I do as a mentor, and I help men become who it is that God made them to be. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time. God bless.
God bless. We'll see you.